Hello! Welcome back. I hope that you've already checked out our Tulum vlog, which is more like bringing you along some of our adventure. So this is more of a travel guide. I thought this would be really helpful and something that I wish we had before we left. We definitely did watch YouTube videos, followed people on Instagram, but nobody told us what I'm going to tell you now. In this video, I'm going to cover everything from what to consider when you're booking, what time of year you should be looking at, things to do when you get there, places to eat, all of that good stuff. And I really hope you find it helpful. If you do, please let me know. As I said, this is something a little bit different. I've never done a travel guide before, but if you find it helpful, I'll definitely look into doing more. So when should you visit Tulum? This is probably the most valuable section in this whole video. If you're looking for uninterrupted sunshine, you want that sort of holiday where you can lie on the beach, by the pool all day, every day without the threat of rain or thunderstorms or cyclones or monsoons. I'm not joking. You need to look and make sure that you're booking the right month. Tulum has a rainy season and it goes from June to October, which is very unfortunate because that's when most people are looking to book their summer holidays. If that's the sort of holiday that you want, you need to go outside of those months, but also then you need to consider their seaweed season, which brings me on to my next point. Tulum has a seaweed season. Not just Tulum, like surrounding places as well, including Cancun. I did not know this until we got there, so you can imagine it was a shock when I was expecting to see these white sand beaches that are all over Instagram, turquoise waters. Other people won't care about that because Tulum is so much more than those beaches. There's so much history, so much culture, the food, the people, the nature is incredible. One more thing then on the weather and the seaweed issue. The way Tulum is laid out is a bit odd. It's still being developed for the most part. There's a lot of construction going on. You'll see from the roads, there's no road markings, signs, traffic lights and that type of thing. The way it's laid out is you have the town and you have the beachfront, and they are a good distance apart. So you'll stay in either of those. You'll either pick to stay in the town or you'll pick to stay by the beach. So if you are going during seaweed season or during the rainy season, maybe you don't want to stay down by the beach if you don't plan on spending a lot of time there, or if you don't think you're going to get to spend a lot of time there because of the weather and the seaweed. You could stay in the town, and I think it's cheaper as well to stay in the town, so that's something to consider. Looking back on our trip, we booked a beachfront hotel. If we had have known about the seaweed issue, we definitely wouldn't have opted to stay on the beach. So this is why I'm saying to you, what do you want from your holiday? Is it a beach type holiday? If so, you can definitely get it in Tulum, but you need to make sure that you pick the right months. But if that's not what you're after and you're more after the adventure kind of side, the nature, the cenotes, the ruins, the food, well then you could stay in the town. So you don't have to stay down by the beach. And it's a lot dearer to stay by the beach accommodation wise, but also live in that area for the time that you're there. The restaurants and the food and the shops are all way more expensive than those downtown. Moving on to our next tip. Tulum, if you look it up on the map, it's literally in the middle of the jungle. Not in the middle of it, but on the sides of a jungle. And that means it gets so many mosquitoes, bugs, creepy crawlies, lizards, iguanas, geckos, you name it. So if you're the type of person that does not like any of that stuff, Tulum might not be for you. I say this because on my Instagram I had up that we walked into our beach house one night and there was a gecko running around the place. And I had so many messages from people saying, oh my god, no way, I couldn't do that, not in a million years, I'd be terrified. If you're one of those people, you might want to reconsider Tulum. Also, because of that fact, you need to bring bug spray. Loads of it. We went through like 3 or 4 bottles in the 10 days. If you don't have it with you, no worries, all of the chemists and shops sell it. Another thing that you need to consider before you get to Tulum is cash. So Mexico has its own currency, pesos. So we had gone to the bank a couple of days before, I think like 3 days before, we went to a few of the local banks and none of them had pesos in stock. We had to order them in advance and we didn't, and because we were leaving in a couple of days, we didn't have time then to get them. So tip, go to your local bank a couple of weeks in advance and order some pesos. When you get there, obviously you'll be able to take money out of the ATM, but there's ATM fees which all rack up. You're charged a percentage of your withdrawal, and not a lot of places take cards. So even those places that do take cards, they add a percentage on top, like 4, 5 or 6% they can add on top of what you're paying just because you're using credit card. So it's going to cost you to use your card, and then it's going to cost you to use the ATM. To avoid all of that, definitely order your pesos in your local bank before you leave. The best thing that we did for this whole trip, and one of the best pieces of advice I'd give you, is to rent a car. Remember I told you that the way Tulum is spread out, you have downtown or the town and you have the beachfront properties, and the fact that they're so spread out. How are you going to get there if you don't have a car? You can't walk in that heat. The heat is ridiculous. The humidity is even worse. We just spoke about the creepy crawlies. It's not a nice walk. I also mentioned Tulum is still being developed. You don't have the infrastructure on the roads like line markings, lights, traffic lights. You don't have any of that. The only way if you don't have a car to get to the town is by taxi. And the taxis, oh my god, they are so ridiculously expensive. One night we wanted to have a few drinks with our dinner, so Darren couldn't bring the car. So we walked outside of the hotel to hail a taxi, just jumped in because that's what type of people we are. And it was 300 pesos for a 3-minute drive. That's about €15. $15 for a 3-minute drive. Think about that. You're barely putting on your seatbelt by the time you arrive. You would spend a fortune on taxis. If you're there like a week, 10 days, it's gonna rack up. We got our car for like $380. Insurance was separate, but to rent a car for 10 whole days, it was only $380. So I definitely recommend looking into that, especially if you want to go and do the day trips. The cenotes, the ruins, they're all a couple of hours away. Cancun, a couple of hours away. So with the car, you avoid all of those transportation costs. It saved us a fortune, and it's definitely something that I recommend you look into. What to pack? So as we were going through our holiday, I was taking notes on my phone of things that we either had to buy when we got there because we never thought about it, or we forgot, or I thought would have been really helpful. SPF, obviously. The sun is very strong. After sun, in case your SPF doesn't work, a rain jacket. I think even during their summer months you're going to get rain showers, and especially if you're going in rainy season, you'll want a rain jacket or a poncho. You can obviously buy them there, but again, they cost a ridiculous amount, especially if it's rainy season. They take advantage of that. Insect repellent, bug spray for your body and for your room. If you have a GoPro, definitely bring it. This is the perfect place. The underwater shots and footage that you're going to get is going to be unbelievable. If you have snorkeling gear, bring it. They rent it out and you can pay for it, but if you have your own, that would avoid you having to pay for it for every cenote that you visit. iPads. So if you have an iPad, definitely bring it. Only if your hotel doesn't have a telly though. Ours didn't, and I was so happy we brought our iPads because we were able to watch Netflix, the series that we were watching, and stream films as well. I'd recommend packing things like Motilium, Dulcolax, Seneca, painkillers, Diorolite, antihistamines in case the bug spray doesn't work. The last thing then that I'd recommend definitely packing are sliders or sandals, some sort of footwear that you can wear into the cenotes, around the cenotes. So, quick fire recap: SPF, face, body, bug spray for your body and for your room. You want your GoPro if you have one. If not, definitely get yourself a waterproof case for your phone. Snorkeling gear if you have any. Sliders or sandals or something for your feet that you can wear into the water or definitely around the water. A rain jacket. iPads if you have them, bring them in case your hotel doesn't have a TV. And then bring your own little first aid kit. Let's get into the good stuff. Things to do. The cenotes. Number one thing to do, absolutely incredible. A cenote is basically a sinkhole, naturally formed. The water is so pure and so clear. It's beautiful. You have the wildlife underneath it. So we went to 2 different types of cenotes. One grand cenote, which was by far our favourite. It wasn't far from downtown at all, in the car obviously, and we paid when we got there. Your $20 gets you your snorkel gear and your life jacket, and that's the place where we got to swim with the turtles, which was just, honestly, that was a dream of mine. Like, it was a dream come true. Then the next lot of cenotes that we went to see were in Casa Tortuga. So this was like an outdoor park, 4 cenotes in total, 2 indoors in caves, and the other 2 were open, so outdoors. We got our tickets for about $20 downtown on one of those little kiosks, and it turns out that was a lot cheaper than when you get there. For either of those, we didn't need to get transport because we had the car, so those prices don't include transport. You can, of course, go for a transport option or do day trips, which is going to cost a lot more. We also did a day trip to Cancun, which I highly recommend. It took about an hour and a half, 2 hours from Tulum to Cancun. We wanted to go to the famous Coco Bongo, which is a show, nightclub, and it was chaos. But good chaos and experience. There's loads of footage of that, and I talked through our experience with Coco Bongo in our Tulum vlog, which I'll link here. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely do, because it's definitely not for everybody. In Cancun, before we went into Coco Bongo, we went to a place called Señor Frogs, and oh my god, the crack. It's crazy, but deadly crazy. Like, it's so much crack. You can get food. The food was lovely. Drinks, the cocktails is what it's famous for. Like, they do like foot-long margaritas, pina coladas. It's crazy. Definitely worth a visit. Señor Frogs, Cancun. Great way to get warmed up if you're going to Coco Bongo. So besides the cenotes, a day trip to Cancun, you can also see one of the 7 new wonders of the world there, Chichen Itza. So Tulum is steeped in Mayan history and culture still today, and Chichen Itza is an old Mayan city. My #1 tip for going to Chichen Itza, which you should absolutely take advantage to see one of the 7 new wonders of the world while you're there, is to hire a tour guide. We got the 2 of us on a tour for the equivalent of $40. So there was just the 2 of us on this tour, and he was so knowledgeable, so friendly, so patient with all of our questions. We learned so much about Mayan history and culture, as well as obviously the ruins themselves. I think if you were to go like we did initially without a tour guide, you wouldn't know what you were looking at. Lastly, moving on to everybody's favourite thing to talk about, certainly mine, food. Tulum is full of beautiful restaurants with incredible food. For breakfast, I recommend Hotheads. That was our favourite place to eat. We got the veggie breakfast with a side of bacon, burrito amor, breakfast burrito, and Fresco's, the avocado on black brioche bread. My god, delicious. So for breakfast, Hotheads, Fresco's, burrito amor, any of them. You could definitely go to any of those places for lunch and dinner as well, but if you're looking for something a little bit more dinnery, I recommend Ziggy's on the beach, and it's beautiful. The food is gorgeous. It's a little bit more expensive than the other places on this recommendations list, but beautiful, and it has a pool table as well. My favourite place that we went for dinner is called Yukami. Their whole tagline is where Mexico meets Japan and falls in love. The food was unbelievable. If you like Japanese sushi, noodles, that type of thing, highly recommend that place. And then the other 2 places that I'd recommend for dinner or lunch, as I said, are El Tabano and Mateo's Grill. El Tabano, we got the steak burrito. One was enough for the 2 of us, honestly. It was huge. And then the last place, Mateo's Grill, they do lovely food, but also to do music some of the nights, which is pretty cool. While I'm talking about food, I have to tell you that you need to get yourself a Mexican Coke while you're there. It's not the same. Mexican Coke is in long, tall glass bottles. The difference with Mexican Coke is that it's made with sugar cane, and the Coke in America and the rest of the world is made with like a high fructose corn syrup, and it's so much nicer, honestly. Trust me, do not leave Mexico without getting a Mexican Coke. That is all of my words of wisdom, all the tips that I had written down. I wish that we had something like this before we booked Tulum, before we got to Tulum, and I hope this serves its purpose in getting you better prepared for when to go and what to do when you get there. Tulum is incredible. It is everything that you see on Instagram. It is the white sands, it is the turquoise seas, outside of rainy season, outside of seaweed season. But it's so much more than that. There's so much culture to explore, so much nature to experience. I'm gonna sign off there. Let me know if you enjoyed this, if you found it helpful. I can definitely do more. I'll chat to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.